From Synozur, this is Polaris. I'm Chris McNulty. Only 12% of corporate transformations fully meet their goals, a rate that hasn't changed in a decade. Why do so many big change initiatives fail, and how can companies beat those odds? Today, we'll talk with someone focused on making transformation succeed by bridging strategy and execution. This is Polaris. Welcome to Polaris Pathways. I'm your host, Chris McNulty, Chief Technology Officer at Synozur. Synozur, the transformation company, reimagines business for our clients, navigating strategies and leadership culture with ease. Today, I'm excited to introduce Rob Asen, head of the transformation office here at Synozur. Rob has over 25 years' experience with companies like Avanade and Cognizant, leading major change programs. He's helped everyone from mid-sized firms to multinational corporations drive growth through innovation and efficiency. Plus, he's recently learned his commercial pilot license. He literally knows how to navigate change both on the ground and above 10,000 feet, and we'll be talking with him about that as well. He'll join us in a few minutes. But first, let's define our terms and our data points. And as always, our reading list and references will be included in the show notes. Today's timing couldn't be better. Business transformation is more critical than ever. Despite all the effort, just 12% of transformations met or exceeded expectations in 2023. No wonder companies are trying new approaches. In fact, over 90% of organizations say a permanent transformation office helps align strategy with execution and juggles multiple initiatives more effectively. At the same time, CEOs are feeling the heat to keep up with rapid changes like generative AI and hybrid work. A 2023 Deloitte CEO survey found that 47% of CEOs are prioritizing workforce upskilling and training to adapt to technological change. Many are establishing transformation offices to drive these efforts. In short, transformation isn't just a buzzword, it's become a necessity in today's rapidly evolving business landscape. Okay, time to transform this monologue into an interview. We have Rob waiting in our virtual green room. Let's go. Welcome to the show, Rob. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Chris. I'm excited to be here with you.
Where are you today?
I'm in my home office. That's my dining room table in Manhattan, New York City, capital of the world.
Whereabouts in Manhattan?
All the way downtown, close to, in fact, you can just about see Ellis Island. Yeah, Fide, Battery Park.
Please don't call it that. My oldest lives in Astoria now, and when she moved to, for me, Wall Street, she spent a year in Fide.
Yes, that's what the cool kids call it. Can you, I think you got to get with the program here a little bit. Yeah, Fide.
Look, anywhere south of Houston is fine. My family is on East 90th, which used to be dodgy, and now it's just sleepy.
We call that upstate New York. Yes. Anything north of, let's say, 14th Street is pretty much upstate New York. Yeah.
Yeah, but you never know. They finally built the Second Avenue line. So
yes, our tax dollars at work. You're welcome. Yes, please come. We invite all tourists to come to New York with their wallets.
Folks, you have not tuned into Polaris. This is New York Coffee Talk with two long-standing New Yorkers. I'd love to keep talking about the best place to get bagels or the favorite pizza places, but we have a topic to talk about today, transformation offices. But before we get into that, I'd love to have you introduce yourself to the audience and talk about your journey. Where'd you grow up?
Thanks. Oh my gosh, that's too much journey, Chris. I'm at my age. I am a mostly lifelong New Yorker. I've been pushing 30 years, let's say now, in tech and large-scale business transformation. Grew up in, so mostly New York City, but all those years I was pretty much living in hotels everywhere around the country and around the world. So I don't know, my formative years have been spent, on American Airlines flying somewhere. Grew up in telecom industry, actually, professionally, about 10 years, and then came over to professional consulting where I was with KPMG and climbed the ladder there, and later Cognizant, and then Accenture, Avanade.
Thinking back to when you were in school, if I had said the word transformation office to you when you were in school, would you have known what that was?
Absolutely not. Not the slightest idea. Yes. Principal's office I would have known. Yes.
What were you going to be when you grew up then?
My gosh, are you kidding? Well, I've actually achieved my dreams in a lot of those ways, Chris. I always imagined I would grow up to be like I was quite a nerd growing up, and
Mhm.
I imagined I'd grow up to be a bigger nerd. And I got to say, I think I've pretty much achieved success in that space. I'm sure when I was four, fireman was a big one, but I mean, truly always something with tech for real. But I am a lot less hands to keyboard over the years and a lot more about really working with, the business, as tech people would say. That was actually the biggest maybe career eye opener was if you want to do tech well, you actually you have to do business well. I had so many great tech programs, projects, innovations have really gone to die because folks haven't really looked at that side of it.
I would imagine, like many of us who have fuzzy memories of the space shuttle and the prior programs, we all wanted to be astronauts. And I know that in some ways, you've actually found an avocation that gets you off the surface of the Earth on a periodic basis.
Hey, Chris, I was there. I remember vaguely when I was a little guy watching the moon landing.
Yep.
So in what, 69? So
Yes.
yep, I
I
was
remember
I'm all the way back.
I was 3. I remember being brought up to my grandparents' house because we were out at the beach in the East End of Long Island. It was rural then, and only my grandfather had TV. I remember all of us in the room. In my memory, I was 3. I couldn't make sense of the TV because it was that weird, if you know, interlock between Australia, the tech thing. Every time I talk to another guest, there's always more going on in the business world. What's top of mind for you that you've seen over the past few weeks?
Obviously, it's AI and the implications of AI and the impact of AI. I mean, that is the topic. It's going to be the topic for several years to come, obviously. When it comes to today's topic, which is around transformation office, or maybe more broadly, how do companies successfully drive really significant complex change? I think this is going to be an eye opener for folks, and I want to propose two angles on this. One is pretty obvious, low hanging fruit. The more AI is deployed across organizations, it's actually going to end up somewhat reducing, maybe even to an extent, sort of backburnering the role of, let's say, the traditional PMO, which is
Mhm.
all about administration, management. I mean, the best PMOs are leadership as well, but most of us have seen generally it's making the trains run on time and to a certain extent herding the cats, but through, let's say, the lens of MS Project. All right, think of like a general contractor and did the cement get delivered and is the crane here on Tuesday? And the PMOs have often been about that. And I think that the need for that is going to be diminishing over time as AI gets more and more embedded across organizations. Conversely, senior leaders who set strategy, guide the vision, drive the funding decisions, I think senior leaders are going to find that they may have much greater ability to be, let's call it virtual hands-on, pretty deep into the organization, pretty deep into operations, pretty close to the tech in a way that's very difficult right now. When you're, a dozen levels above where work really gets done, you're reliant on all these levels between you. But I think AI is going to help change that. I think we're going to see some really interesting effects from that.
I was thinking of two things as you were saying that, Rob. AI is changing rapidly, but the world is changing rapidly. And so we're recording this here in the middle of August. And earlier this week, I was reading the New York Times about the tariffs are becoming real, which is a rapid change. Do we have to respond to this or not? And how organizations who may have had a very calcified approach to their supply chains are now quickly needing to analyze a lot more data than they thought they would ever have to look at in a compressed period of time, and how AI is helping them with that.
Nothing drives effective change more than an existential threat. And it's really been tough to hear some of the stories. Small businesses around the country that are really terribly impacted by this. And there's going to be a big shakeout, of course. And the folks that can adapt really quickly, cut their costs really quickly, ad- adapt their whole supply chain model, yeah, they are going to survive, hopefully thrive, but at least survive. Yeah.
Yeah, any change has losers, but it also can create opportunities and winners. So,
Completely. I mean, I think you used a great word, calcify. That is, I don't think folks realize that.
mhm.
Think of how many times we've heard about, just in time manufacturing and all of that, right? I don't think, generally speaking, folks, meaning the broader swath of businesses around the world, really understood just how fragile that whole system was. So I think, COVID was obviously a tremendous wake-up call, more than a wake-up call. And now in the U.S., certainly, not just the U.S., actually globally, the U.S. tariffs are the next wave of that. Absolutely.
I was
Yeah.
reading an article 2 weeks ago about a very small piece of the supply chain about frozen raspberries.
Okay.
90% of the US supply comes from a single town in the Pacific Northwest. And does that make sense? Probably not, but
I think we're going to start seeing some raspberry farms open up across the across the country. So I did not know that. That's a great one. But I think we're going to see this a lot of things. Look at coffee, as another great example. Avocados, right? Some
mhm.
and also not just that, semiconductors, TSMC, all right, we have incredible dependency on everything, let's say, from raspberries to semiconductors,
Yep.
right?
So, Rob, we've been hearing for years about transformation and digital transformation. And today we're talking about a transformation office.
Yep.
For our listeners, I think of that as being a lot of change management, but it feels like it could be another iteration of a PMO, the project management office. What is a transformation office and how is it different from some of those other paradigms?
We should really start there. Yeah, in a way, it's helpful to maybe compare and contrast. I think most folks are familiar with the idea of a PMO, a program management office. What are they known for? They're known for administration, management, structure, making the trains run on time, or verifying that the trains are running on time, reporting to senior leadership, tracking to budgets. So all very, very, very important functions, vendor management, very important functions to move programs along, make sure often multiple projects and programs are working in sync, or at least alignment in terms of delivery dates, et cetera. That's great, very important, very valuable. However, I think we've also seen numerous complex programs which have had PMOs where really what they were doing is managing and reporting and monitoring all the way right off the cliff till the programs were simply not relevant. So coming back to transformation office, its function is more than anything else is being the keeper of the strategy, of the transformation strategy. So senior leadership, CEO, C-suite, board, investors say, this is our vision, this is our North Star, and we are gonna make that happen no matter what, urgent, existential. Great. To have something like that clearly established, which by the way is no small feat, and that's really the first job of the transformation office, is to make sure that's really clear, really understood. We're really in alignment and see that the same way. All right. That could sound a bit, pie in the sky.
Sure, but let's break it down a little bit. So
Yeah, Chris.
I've worked a lot with PMOs. They're typically accountable to someone who's operational or financial. And it sounds like the transformation office itself may have accountabilities that go above and beyond
It
that.
can
Do I have it right?
Exactly right. In fact, it's only going to be effective, my opinion. Transformation office can only really be effective if it's reporting at or very near the top of the house. I really don't see any other way because a true transformation program should affect most or all of the business. That's everything. That's what you do, how you do it, who are your customers, how do they engage with you, everything from A to Z, your costs, all of it, A to Z. I mean, the way I think of it, by the way, I should have said this to start. I mean, I really think of this. This is transformation is the you know, is the caterpillar becoming the butterfly. It's the same creature, but incredibly, extraordinarily different. Transformation is not giving some new pairs of sneakers to the caterpillar so go a little faster.
So at some level, the PMO is accountable for executing a list of programs that have already been decided upon. It sounds like a transformation office is sitting somewhere between that and strategy, helping to not just drive change down at the cubicle level, but helping work with leadership to determine which are the programs that we need to bring forward, how and when, and having some accountability.
So I'll put it this way. I think a transformation office and an enterprise program office or program management office, there's a lot of synergy there. It should be collaborating on exactly what you just talked about. So we have a strategic vision from senior leadership. We've agreed and aligned around that. The TO may have helped shape and brought that to land. Now, how do we bring it to reality? There's going to be an entire portfolio of programs. We're going to have to understand the pace of change, how much the organization can absorb, the budgets, the interplay between them, impact on our customers, all of these things, our suppliers, all of that, right? And that, in my view, ideally is a collaboration between the TO, which is the keeper of the strategy, the vision, and the PMO, which is the execution, the how are we going to get it done, and keeping those trains running on time. Going forward, there's a big difference, maybe the biggest difference then between PMO and transformation office. The PMO, their job is, do or die, make it happen. Here's the mission, go forward, drive it. Transformation office, really in the role of keeper of the strategy, is learn, understand, shepherd the programs, but also be ready to make changes, including strategic changes. A true transformation office does not need to go back and start over and realign all the executives and say, hey, we are now going to make an important strategic shift. A true transformation office is empowered to make it happen. Now, making it happen means you have the senior most leaders sponsoring and or deeply engaged with the functions of the transformation office. And so you don't have to say, now we just learned that this plan A is not working, or there's a regulatory shift, or a tariffs, or whatever changes. Now we need to make a left turn. You do not stop and spend 6 months getting that realigned. Transformation office is empowered to drive and lead transformation. This is really the biggest difference. You'll never see a PMO equipped to do that.
Rob, I know you've led many transformation projects. I'd love to share a story of one of those and what you've learned from it.
I'd like to share one that actually goes back to really let's call it almost one of my formative experiences in how I think about a transformation office, why you need one, what it does, what makes it go well. All of those things are really rooted in this work, and this goes back a good ways in my career. I still draw lessons from it, to this day. So several years ago, I was working with a U.S. wireless carrier, which had an extraordinary ambition. Said, "Hey, we're going to go from being a very good regional player, and through a series of acquisitions and tremendous technology investment and a commitment to true enterprise-wide change, we are going to transform ourselves into a leading national carrier." That right there is, exciting and maybe terrifying vision.
Mm-hmm.
And the next step is, okay, how do you make that real? So I was brought in along with a small team, which became a much larger team eventually, to stand up, which we were not calling a transformation office at the time. This is before the term transformation was in such vogue. There are those who apply transformation to just about everything. Certainly, pretty much every IT project out there, transformation. There was digital, and then now AI. You just slap the label on, right? And you just get that much more funding for it. So I think we were a little bit ahead of that, but this was absolutely as real a transformation as you could possibly imagine, including a total brand reboot, lots of people change. And so a few lessons that came out of this. This was a very successful program. It was about 2.5 years of my involvement and my team's involvement. Started a little before us, continued a bit after.
more than enough time to, if you're going to an actual office, to put a picture up on the wall. This is not something that happens.
A picture up on the wall. Are you kidding? I was mostly sleeping under my desk, so I didn't really have time to think about decorating. But a few lessons, a few lessons. One is the organization, well, the senior leadership and then the entire organization had an incredible sense of urgency. I live just to the examples you were giving before about the current supply chain disruptions and tariff impacts and existential. This was seen as absolutely existential. Either grow and become this national scale carrier or die or
Mhm.
slide into irrelevance. Absolutely existential. That was incredible right there. Number two, almost like 1A, the top of the house was hands-on, personally involved from A to Z in this initiative. And in fact, my counterpart, my client, my sponsor, she was at the time the CFO, had previously been the head of customer service, had previously had that before that headed sales, knew every part of the business, was respected and trusted by every part of the business. And maybe folks were a little tiny bit also anxious to have her coming in with some steel-toed boots, kicking butts across the organization as she was wont to do. So this was really a unicorn, but I think folks need to take a lesson from this, maybe almost more than anything else. Having the kind of commitment and hands-on personal engagement from a deeply trusted, extraordinarily knowledgeable leader who had been part of almost every part of the company.
I know you were engaged there through the transformation office for 2.5 years. What did it look like at the end, and how did you get there?
What you had was a national scale carrier operating under a single unified brand with a distinct new presence in the marketplace and a new perspective to their customers. Uh, Behind the scenes, operating on a completely new technology stack. I mean, basically everything but the network was changed out over this time, and obviously all the business processes that go around that. So I mean, this was as much caterpillar to butterfly as you could possibly imagine. Radically different scale, radically different operations, and radically different capabilities, right? With a totally different growth trajectory afterwards. So that's really what it looked like at the end. One other point I should make: the organization also came out of this experience incredibly well equipped to operate in the new world. And that's because this organization, unlike some others, didn't say, hey, we're just going to hand it over. We're going to hire a general contractor, maybe a large consulting firm or a technology firm. So we have more than skin in the game. We are the game. We, together with our advisors and partners, we are running this. And therefore, when they came out of it, they were left in great position to operate successfully, and with actually, frankly, with several significant emergent new leaders in the organization who had grown through the program.
Rob, I know you've not just shepherded that company through their transformation, but a number of others. So you probably have some experience about how does it go off the rails? What are the anti-patterns that a
Oh, that's
transformation
great.
should avoid?
That's great. A few I'll throw out quickly. One is the idea that you can say we will delegate or outsource a transformation office. This is a huge factor. True transformation needs hands-on, deep personal engagement from the senior most leadership of the company. Otherwise, you think you could just write a check? It's not going to happen. This is a key factor. Another, and you've said change several times, and change management, and that's a it's an urgent and critical element of the work of the transformation office. You have to have organizational buy-in. Frankly, not even just transformation. Any complex, difficult thing you're going to do in an organization needs buy-in. More than just lip service. You need folks to say, we are committed. We need what's going to come out of this. We are personally committed, and we understand why it's relevant for us. We are going to make it happen no matter what. And that's from top to bottom in the organization. Easy for me to say, very tough to do, right?
Yeah. If our friend Matt Schaefer were here, he keeps reminding me, channeling For him, Roger Martin, for me, friend of Polaris, Dr. John Hillen, strategy is about choices. I've been on a number of board of directors, and there's a temptation to sometimes approach strategy as saying, we could be national, we could be regional, we could be international. Let's try all three and see what happens. Many organizations fail to understand that strategy involves making choices. And if at a top line you're not making those choices, I don't think you're positioning a transformation office to be successful.
I love that. That comes back to what we talked about before, which is clarity around your North Star. What is your vision? Where are you driving? Especially in large organizations, actually any organization, but especially in large organizations, that's a lot of cats to be herding. And if leadership is not crystal clear on that North Star, how do you expect, you know, whatever, Joe Smith in plant number 27 to be clear. So I'm completely with you. I do want to make one other comment on what not to do. So a recent client last year in Asia, um, I did some work and had a team doing some work for the transformation office, the notionally transformation office. What was the transformation office? In fact, what it was almost exclusively change management and adoption reporting on a portfolio of programs. Kudos to them because they never had anything like that. This is a quite substantial entity, multi-billion dollar business. They never had that before. At least they had some visibility. That's pretty good. But the transformation office, such as it was not even remotely empowered to actually reset strategy, drive change. It ended up more being about the process of change and monitoring change. That is not a transformation office.
Coming from a technology background, whether you're at a company like Microsoft or dealing with the Big Four or whatever your role is, I think there's a tendency to naturally frame things in technological terms. The risk there becomes that change management becomes a glorified set of training and adoption metrics, and is
Exactly.
not looking at the real implications for how long does it take to get a new supplier? What's the time period for executing a rebrand and getting that message out to market? I think those are the kinds of decisions that organizations fail to grapple with.
I'm completely with you. So I'm hugely focused on, supportive of, and a practitioner of change management at scale in a very strategic way. Incredibly important component of true transformation. Often done poorly, sometimes not done at all. So couldn't agree more. But also, it's not enough. It's necessary, but not sufficient when you think of transformation office, right?
So, Rob, when you think about the challenges we've been talking about for many businesses, what are your recommendations that you offer to leaders who are facing these kinds of challenges looking forward?
For leaders who are facing complex challenges, especially again landing, AI across the organization, that's easy, right? Clearly, everyone has that on their plates today, right now, and will be for the foreseeable future. Folks in the organization see themselves potentially at risk. It's not clear what operations will look like. So there's plenty of challenge out there. I think it's pretty much a 5-step process when you think about how to drive transformation effectively. Number one, as we've talked about, vision, the why. You have to keep that, the North Star, you have to keep that front and center and not be afraid to be intentional as you may need to drive some changes in that as you go, but not willy-nilly, very intentional, data-driven with intense leadership engagement. So vision is one. Leadership is number two. Transformation office, if it cannot drive, if it is not empowered, if it does not have senior leaders deeply, deeply engaged within it, right? You can't just, outsource this, then it will be utterly unsuccessful. Folks will see it as just another administrative function in the organization. And in particular, the senior most leader from the organization has to be incredibly empowered. Okay, 3, vision, leadership. Next will be impact. So impact is saying you're going to make trade-offs all the time. Which project will we give more funding? Which will less? Where will we prioritize. For example, when you look and say, hey, our customer service organization, can only absorb just so much. Which project is most essential? That's very, very important. Understanding the impact. And impact doesn't just mean from a project management sense. It means what will advance the company towards that vision. So that's next, is really deeply understanding that. Fourth is capacity, as I just mentioned. What does that mean? Again, not how many widgets can the factory produce, but how much change can the organization effectively absorb, and absorb in a way, again, that leads you towards the achievement of the transformation. That podcast in itself, how to understand that and to work with that. And lastly is measurement. And I know that sounds like a PMO sort of thing, but from a transformation office perspective, very important. So three aspects to this. You've got the immediate, which is very much like change management. Are the changes getting adopted? How are behaviors changing? Can we see that? Can we evaluate that? Over the midterm, are we seeing operational metrics? And maybe we've reduced cycle time, or customer satisfaction's increased, or returns, or whatever it may be, right? So we're starting to see the impacts come back to us. And then ultimately, have we really achieved the ambitions of the transformation? Have we grown market share? Have we significantly impacted our production costs? Have we changed the culture? Have we integrated maybe acquisitions with radically different needs and cultures? So five things: vision, leadership, impact, capacity, and measurement. I just went like four, Chris. I literally said five. And for folks listening on audio, I made a four symbol with my hand. Thank you for that senior moment. I'm glad you guys were there with me.
Love that framing. And of course, they all interconnect. One of the
Absolutely.
things we talk about a lot at Synozur with our strategy consulting is the focus is on outcome and not activities. And all too often, PMOs focus on doing things the right way and don't get into the measurement of, are we having the impact? Are we proving the impact? And if we're not having it, what do we learn to take back in?
That's exactly right. And hey, doing things right versus doing the right things. Maybe if we put it in a nutshell, TO is all about doing the right things. PMO is all about doing the things right. It's incredibly important for folks to realize when they're embarking on a transformation or contemplating a transformation versus just a bunch of programs. That is not the same thing. If at the end of the day, the business is going to be largely the same, but maybe you've got a new billing system or new branding in the market, you're still the same company. Transformation really should be understood as we are all in. And if you're going to be all in, then what do you need to make that happen? I think a lot of folks don't get that.
One of my managers at Microsoft, he likes to use the metaphor that you have to get off the dance floor. And even though you're not dancing, you need to be able to go up to the balcony and look down and see the patterns and see what's moving, and being able to then suggest, we need to change the music, we need to move a table, we need to do something different.
I love that. That is so right. But let's say really both. Get up, do it, take your look, and get back down and get back on the dance floor as well. Let's say, a bit of a cycle through that.
Yep.
Right? Too often you're going to set up a TIA or anything, and it's arm's length from the company.
Well, Rob, you know the question that's coming next. And often I ask our guests to talk about pop culture or a book or a movie.
Sure.
People love to talk about Severance. In your case, there is something from outside the world of business and technology that has a real impact on the world. I'd love to have you share that with our audience.
So I am a commercial rated pilot. I fly a small plane, which is great, and it's delightful in and of itself. But starting mid last year, I've become involved with a few charity flying groups, and that has been incredible. Flying, I'll start with the easy one. One is flying rescue doggies around the country. That's a beautiful thing. I know. I want an awe from everybody on that one. That is an occupational hazard of charity doggy flying, is falling in love every single time. But even more than that is flying medical patients, typically folks with advanced or rare cancers, for treatment that they can only get in major centers. Yesterday, in fact, I flew a young woman back from a treatment at Sloan Kettering in New York, back to upstate New York. And that is the single most rewarding thing you could possibly do with your plane. Incredible experience.
Why does that happen? Because I know that New York has more than a few flights going around the country. So if someone needs to get, hey, I'd think that there's a way they can get there. No?
There's a reason that rich people like to fly private. It's convenient, no fuss, in and out fast. Okay, well, the same thing applies for folks who are pretty ill as well. It's extremely convenient, no TSA, no security lines. You go right to your little tiny airport in the middle of nowhere where you may happen to live. And frankly, it's VIP service from beginning to end. So I'm glad to do it. I've met absolutely amazing people through this. The farthest I've flown has actually not been that far. Been about 600 miles for one of those flights. So it's got to stay comfortable for folks. That's about
sure.
3 hours in my plane.
We were talking earlier about the risk of getting attached to rescue dogs, but I would imagine in the time you spend in the air with those patients, you get to know some of them?
Yes, you really do. And this has been an eye-opener for me, maybe unsurprising. Folks who go through these experiences, I found, are just incredibly open. You know, you'd think some people would be very private about it, very personal. It's really been the opposite. Folks want to share the experiences, what they've been going through. They're very folks have been so warm and engaging, and I marvel at it, absolutely marvel when folks are in really tough and incredibly uncomfortable, in many cases painful situations like this. I don't say the word often, but I'm really blessed to spend the time with them, and it's also very tough because not everybody makes it either.
Curious, how do you find out that someone needs a flight?
So the group that I'm part of is a group called PALS. It's Patient Airlift Services. Folks can go take a look. PALS Skyhope. It's been around for quite a while. And it's all done at no charge for the patients. So through the hospitals, through their care providers, folks usually learn about these services. They can submit their name. They're interviewed for it. And it's really wonderful. Donations are absolutely welcome. All pilots out there, I'll expect you all to be following up. I'd love for you to reach me. Happy to talk about it anytime. Also for doggy rescue, pilots and paws, reach me anytime to talk about it. But they're out there on the interwebs and would welcome your support in any way that you can give it.
For certain, we'll be glad to share those details in the show notes and in the promotions. And if you're listening to this, if you can contribute, whether it's through resources or through time, I'm sure Rob can help leverage that to a really worthy cause. So
thank you, Chris. Really appreciate you doing that.
So finally, how can the audience stay in touch with you and what's next?
So you can obviously reach me through our friends at Synozur, or most easily just go on LinkedIn. I'm the only Rob Asen out there. So Rob Asen Transformation, Rob Asen Synozur. Don't confuse me with the Robert Asens. Not those guys. Rob Asen, easy to find.
We won't. So our guest, Rob Asen, heads up the transformation office for us here at Synozur. And if you see a light moving around the North Star in the evening sky, that just may be Rob up there.
Chris, thanks for the time. This was a delight.
Thank you again. We'll be right back. Up next on Polaris, events. It's summertime, and there seem to be more events than ever coming up. Here's what we're watching. The TribalNet Conference, September 14th through 18th at Reno, Nevada. The London Tech Leaders Summit, October 7th through 8th at the Minster Building in London, England. Experts Live, October 10th at Microsoft New York, Times Square. The Vancouver AI Summit, October 19th through 20th at the Harbor Center in Vancouver, British Columbia. Later in the year, we're looking ahead to TechCon 365 in Dallas and Microsoft Ignite this November in San Francisco, as well as ESPC 25 this December in Dublin, Ireland. We'll have more details soon. I'll have links to all of that and more in the show notes. You can learn more at Synozur.com/events. And if you have an upcoming event you'd like us to promote on Polaris, please get in touch and we'd be happy to share it. Well, that's a wrap for another episode. I'd like to thank our guest, Rob Asen, for joining us and sharing his thoughts on digital transformation and transformation offices. We encourage you to check out our show page for links to everything we talked about today and more. Visit us at polaris.synozur.com. Send us your questions and feedback for the Synozur team. You can reach us via email at polaris@synozur.com. Remember to rate, review, and tell all your friends about the show. It really helps people connect with us. And follow us wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Polaris is produced with help from Riverside. Our theme song, Alternative Dream, is provided courtesy of Adobe. Additional music and sound provided by Indie Guy Records. Graphic design by Josh Brantley. Thanks for listening. I'm Chris McNulty, and this has been Polaris, a show that charts the course for business and technology transformation from Synozur. Learn more at synozur.com. See you next time. Keep following your North Star.